extra time.
Yeah, and just a sort of more broader one, with the sort of messages that you're giving to the guys after a defeat like that, what's the balance you strike between saying, don't worry lads, there were ridiculous conditions, the ball was skidding on, India's batsmen struggled, Joe Root took 5 for 8, etc. What's the balance between telling them that side of things so that they don't get too down on themselves, but at the same time, the other side of it is where they need to improve? How do you strike that balance?
Well, I think it's just an honest, sensible conversation, to be honest, which is exactly what we had. I think both Joe and I, and probably the players as well, accept that we missed an opportunity in the first innings to score more runs. Had we have done that, then the game could have been different. Second dig, as tough as it would have been, had we got levelled with them with less wickets down, could the game have been different then? But I think the one thing for me would have been that first innings, the position we're in, could we have capitalised more on that? But it's just a sensible conversation that, yes, we can't get too down because everybody has struggled. Every batsman struggled on this surface, to a degree. But equally, if we see this again, where can we pick off the little learnings here? What could we have done better? And that's an example of one of them.
Your thoughts on the pitch and whether it was fit for purpose for a test match, and maybe have you had any discussions, or are you thinking about having any discussions with the ICC, to do it as respectfully as possible?
First and foremost, sort of just to follow up on what Joe said really yesterday. Joe got 5 for 8, but at the same time, whatever the pitch did or didn't do, India ultimately played better than us on that surface. But it probably pushed us to the extremes of what most of our players, if any, have experienced.
In terms, though, of formalising any discussions, I'm not saying you're going to go complain, but a test match that finishes within 2 days, the shortest test match since 1935. It's not a great spectacle. I'm sure you don't like it. The BCCI don't like it either. Is there any redress to the ICC here?
Listen, we'll be talking about certain things behind the scenes, obviously, as you probably know. But at the same time, I can imagine. We're disappointed that we sat here when there should be 3 days of cricket left, and I'm sure there's a few spectators are as well. But unfortunately, the game did finish. We are where we are. So, from my point of view now, it's heading to the next game. And how do we sort of make amends and make sure that we come out fighting for the next one and hopefully draw the series?
You said to Garant that there will be discussions behind the scenes when he mentioned the pitch. Could you elaborate on that, please? Do you mean with Javagal Srinath?
Listen, we've spoken to Javagal, as you probably already know, but not about the pitch. So it's, I think Joe and I have got to sit down and have a conversation about the rest of it, really, and see where we go with it. Because certainly, we have to accept that we do have to get better on these pitches. We've got to accept that there's places that we could have improved. So you look at the first innings, we had an opportunity there to maybe score more runs. And next time, I would hope that we'd pounce on that opportunity and obviously make the best use of the pitch when it was fresh. But at this moment in time, it's I've not really got anything to add on that on the subject of the pitch.
So you think you have to accept any service you get when you're overseas?
I'm not saying we just accept things, but I'm just saying at this moment in time, I don't think I'm certainly not in a position to talk openly about what we should or shouldn't do. It's a conversation between myself and Joe at the moment.
I suppose you can get stats to prove anything you want, really. As happy as you were about winning 6 away from home and 6 in a row on the subcontinent prior to these 2 defeats, the stats also show that against New Zealand, Australia and India, the sort of the 3 teams above you, the 3 teams fighting it out for a World Test Championship, England have won just 1 game out of 25 against them away from home, losing 17. That's a pretty sort of damning trend over a long period of time. Are you concerned about just how far you might be away from the big boys?
Listen, we completely accept that we're not a finished article. Am I concerned? I'm not concerned. It's a work in progress. We knew that when I came into the job, and we knew we were going to have to work hard to build on it, and we knew who we were chasing. So for me, it's just we continue working, we continue building, and we continue trying to chase them down.
But does it kind of tell you anything about how much work you've kind of got ahead of you? I mean, do you feel as though after 2 defeats in that manner, where I suppose the style of defeat has been consistent, that you just chalk it up to that type of cricket, or do you actually feel that you've got a bit more work to do across the board when you bring in New Zealand and Australia, and of course Australia being the main focus as you build towards those Ashes at the end of the year?
Listen, I mean, both sides struggled on most surfaces. So again, we've got to keep perspective. But equally, I mean, we accept that we've got to get better as well. If we want to be world number one, we've got to accept that, I mean, we have to learn from what we've got in front of us. We're not going to get everything right. We accept that as well. But as long as we're learning, we're building, we're moving forward, I mean, the players are gaining experience, we will keep getting better. And if we keep doing that, then we will start sort of bucking that trend and we'll start winning.
I was just wondering if it was just asking a bit much of Johnny Bairstow to fly home, be at home, spend time with his family, come back straight into the sort of white heat in the middle of a series where the ball's spinning a lot. Is that asking a lot too much of the player, or is that just how we have to accept it?
I think it's the life that we're living at the moment. I mean, it's, I've said this quite a lot, obviously, but we are in strange times, and we've got to react and try and look after our personnel. And sometimes that means that people go out and come back in. I think, I mean, it was tough for Johnny, but it's been tough for everybody on those conditions as well. I mean, it's not just Johnny, but struggled on that surface. And as I've said before, I mean, India lost 8 for 47, and they've got some fine batsmen in their camp as well. But it's, again, I mean, we know he's a good player of spin. We've seen that time and time again. We've got every confidence in him. And like I said, we know he is a good player, and he's got a lot to contribute to the side. Hence, he played.
In terms of, a tour of India is a very, very hard place to go. Do you have any regrets, with hindsight, of team selection, Chris, that maybe when you play in India, regardless of the pitch, going with 2 spinners, is that a regret?
Well, as I've already said, I mean, Joe Root's got 5 for 8. So actually, the second spinner did all right for us. But I mean, we did expect the wicket to hold up longer than it did, to be honest, having looked at it. And equally throughout training, using the pink ball and looking back in history on pink ball tests, I mean, the ball swung for us. And Jimmy and Co all got movement with the ball during practice. So we genuinely felt that we had the right side out there with the experience that we had, and having two of our bowlers in the top 10 in the world in the rankings. We felt that with this pink ball, it would have been an opportunity for those two to obviously make a big impact in the game for us. Hence the selection we went for. So it's not that we didn't think about it. Obviously, there's a lot of logic. We'd looked at the history and looked at the stats and taken notice of what happened during the training sessions. I mean, both bowling in the nets and bowling out in the middle, and tried to come to a conclusion that way, really, of how we best use a pink ball.
Hit the subscribe option and the bell icon to get all the exclusive sports videos on XtraTime.